Before we
Hang on,
begin
hang on.
this podcast, I need to preface this by saying one thing. I do not share the opinions of my co-hosts. Not that I disagree with them, but I don't know which direction the show is going to go, and I don't know what we're going to say. So my hosts' opinions are their own, and my opinions are also my own, and they do not reflect those opinions of the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government, or the United States Air Force. With that
Oh,
said,
right, that's
what's
a
that?
thing.
Yeah,
That's a thing. You
it's
have to
something I
mention
gotta
now.
do. I don't know what's gonna happen. But anyways, welcome back to FoE Talk. I am back again to host the show. Uh, After Armix practically did nothing with it. It's nothing against him though. Um, but today is a special episode. It's going to be different than usual. We're not talking about anything related to Fallout Equestria, but instead we're talking about the My Little Pony movie.
I've been lied to. Why am I here?
Well, I'm going to tie this into Fallout Equestria very easily, and I'm going to say that my feelings towards the My Little Pony movie is very similar to how I feel towards Fallout Equestria. On the whole, I enjoy it and find it very entertaining, but like when I take a close look at it, there are just a lot of small little things that just bug me so much. But anyways, I need to introduce my hosts. I'm joined by Captain Horse,
Hello.
Fuzzy,
Hey there.
and Snipe Hamster, which I've heard
Hello.
you've been on the cast before, but I wasn't here for it. So it's nice to be able to hold a cast with you, Snipe. Thank you for being
Hi.
here.
Yeah, ditto.
So I'm terrible at transitions. Fellas, what did you think of the movie? Like, overall initial thoughts.
I'm just jumping into silence. My first impressions were pretty good. I suppose I went in with like no expectations, and I was just like there were a lot of I think after the first 10 minutes I was like the first 10 minutes were kind of safe and predictable horse material. But then after that, it just kind of takes a turn into this madcap Luthian nightmare, and it's great. I do have some opinions from the second watch that I will get to later, but my first impressions were, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
go
go on,
on.
Snipe.
No, I was just going to say, I think my first impression was similar. On a rewatch, I think I revised my opinion of it down a bit. It's not as good as maybe the hype would suggest. There's a few things, like you mentioned, that kind of bug you about it, but none the same. I think it was a solid 6 out of 10. Let's put it that way. So there's good things and bad things.
Fuzzy?
Yeah, I think from when I first saw it, I honestly thought it was a bit of a disappointment. Because and it's strange that what Horse said is actually is pretty much opposite to the exact way I think, in that when it first started off, I was actually feeling more reassured about the quality of it. And then as soon as it left the opening setup, I felt like the quality just went off a cliff and only really came back in the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Interesting.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how that breaks down for it. But in general, I feel that it had a lot of good things, but more importantly, it had a lot of good potential that never was entirely grasped. And I sort of felt like it was the My Little Pony movie that both forgot who the main characters are supposed to be, and then went into being pretty much exactly what everyone else outside the fandom thinks My Little Pony is. It actually was.
Yeah.
So,
kind of.
yeah. So I'm mostly going to be seeing it from that perspective. Going through on second viewing, I don't think that changed much. So I'll no doubt that'll go into more detail throughout. But I would say it had a lot of good stuff in it, but ultimately was quite a disappointment for the big movie to be this, as opposed to the quality we're used to.
Yeah. For me, on first watch, I was emotionally blown away because I was with Horse on this one. I had very, very little to no expectations on this movie going in. It's like I was like completely opening my mind to whatever the movie was going to throw at me, and I just came out of it stunned, which was also how I felt about Fallout Equestria. Just like, what's gonna be this thing? What is it? I'm curious. And then like after like the final scene, like my face is numb and I'm thinking, oh my god, that was an experience. But I'm also in agreement on Fuzzy that on subsequent watches, like once I started paying attention, like really close attention and picking it apart, I found that there are things that that just really break it down for me, which we'll get to in a bit. Let's see, but yeah, going into the movie, I had no expectations, but I did have a sort of wish list of things that I wanted this movie to hit, and it pretty much hit all of them. Starting with like a much better animation quality. As far as 2D goes, the 3D in the movie is kind of it's hit or miss at times, and like there's really only one part of the movie where the 3D just completely falls apart. It's during the windmill escape scene, where like and I was talking about this with Fuzzy at one point, where like the 2D characters running on this 3D surface, just like it looked like they were slipping on ice, is what it was.
Yeah, I think it's it was a mixture of that the essentially or run cycle, I suppose I should say, was effectively at a different rate to the scrolling of the background.
Yeah.
And there was also some perspective issues going on in that sequence where the angle that they were at was not entirely matching the angle that the background below them was at. It was very obvious throughout that it was 2D characters plastered onto a 3D screen, essentially, in those areas when it was bad. It had a lot of moments when it was pretty good, and in second viewing I actually realised there was a lot of 3D scenes that I hadn't actually realised were 3D when I first walked through, but it's always going to be those ones where it doesn't work that you remember.
Yeah.
This is going to come up in things that I'm talking about a lot, because for those of you who don't know me, I'm an animator, and this is a lot of what came up to me in the second viewing, where I'm just like, oh, that's how that works. And the conclusion I came away from with the second on the second viewing was, wow, the budget is really showing. And if we're going like topic by topic, then I will come back to this and explain in more detail.
There's really no topic by topic like regular FoE Talks. This is just a sort of rambly cast, I guess you could say.
Oh boy, okay. So I might as well take the floor now.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so This is where I have to bring up my notes. I'm so unprepared.
We're
have
all
notes?
unprepared. It's.
You have notes?
I woke up at 4 in the morning and got 4 hours of sleep. I am struggling to hold this together.
Hold it together, baby. Whole script. The horse movie note. That's. Oh yeah, here we go. So there's the second viewing. The first thing I noticed was the lip sync, where I don't know if it's the file I was watching or the actual movie, but I had to adjust it back 2 frames for the lip syncs to land, and that really that's just me being an animator and going like, that's not quite right.
I
Because that's
think
my
that
job.
may have been a problem with the file you got because I never really saw an issue with lip sync for what I have.
Yeah, yeah. But then that had me paying attention to the lips, and the first thing I noticed was that for pretty much all of the characters that aren't all of the show characters except Pinky. So and this doesn't apply to any of the characters they made for the movie. For the show characters, the lip sync is just really understated. Like, it's like in wide shots you can barely see what they're saying. I mean, like, you can barely see it moving, and it's actually kind of distracting. The mouths are tiny, and it's only when I started paying attention to it that it's just like that. That seems kind of cheap. That, like, I mean, particularly compared to the acting in some of the scenes, which I'll get to the fucking acting. And this is acting as in the characters' movements, not the voice acting. Though I guess compared to the voice acting as well, the voice acting is being expressive and stuff, and the characters kind of standing there, tiny mouth talking. Where that's just one of the things where if you're paying attention, it's quite obvious that this is a studio that makes a TV show making a movie, and even though they've got the art style upgrade, it hasn't quite survived. They've not fully made the transition to the production values that you need for a feature film.
I think you can almost see that in the ways that the expressions work, because there's that what people feel about a lot of the expressions and the slightly uncanny valley look they have. But then you see these ones where they're doing these still frame expressions and they look amazing. And you can, it's like you say, it's like they're used to working with this this format where the expressions are much more keyframed as opposed to here where they seem to want to do it in a more flowing, gradual style.
I mean, I can see what they're trying to go for. I suppose another concern was probably the time they had to do it in, because I mean, if you think about the time scale of this, came out in October 2017.
Yeah, something like that.
How long must this have been in production?
Well, I think it was at least a few years, because there was I think it was when Megan left to work on it, and that's going back a wee while.
If I could say, the movie may have been in production, but like the actual timetable for the animation of the movie was, I believe, something like less than a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, I got to give a shout out to the animators. I believe they were Chinese animators, who I'm sure were overworked and underpaid. But like I think they still did an amazing job bringing these characters to life with software that hasn't been used for this animation before.
Well,
yeah. Sorry, can I add something very quickly?
Yeah, sure, go Snipe.
Yeah, just on that note, while we can nitpick elements of the voice acting and the animation, I think on the whole it was a very pretty movie. You did have, from time to time, you got these big wide-angle shots of places like Canterlot and the Sea Pony Kingdom and that sort of thing. They did actually go out of their way to produce some really, really sort of shiny, in-your-face, look at what we can do now visuals that you wouldn't have ever seen in the show.
I mean, aesthetically, they were quite adventurous, and I can definitely applaud them for that. That the budget and the timetable weren't quite up to fully realizing that vision. The movies it reminded me of visually on the second watch, because on the first watch I was thinking like American Tail, Secret of Nim, kind of like just this. You have these small, cute, colorful characters in a astonishingly grim environment for a kids movie. But on the second watch, what I was thinking of was like Treasure Planet and Disney's Atlantis and like the Iron Giant and Titan E, where
Yes. Hello.
and it's I have a note here that it's a great looking movie for 2005.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
Where it's this is one of the things where the 3D didn't quite get the time that it
Yeah,
serves.
it's
Yeah.
kind of clunky. Yeah.
And there's it's one of those things where it undoubtedly looks a lot better than the show.
Mhm.
But it's worth comparing it to other movies, and in the context of Royal Rumble, it doesn't come off looking great in a few places.
Tempest ship much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
especially in the beginning, like, and this was something that was pointed out on Slash MLP when some of the first trailers were dropping, and Tempest's airship showed up. Like, people were comparing it to like graphics from Spyro the Dragon on PlayStation 1, which
Yeah.
which I absolutely do not fault them for making that comparison, because yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot of time given to the CGI, and that's definitely one of the places where it doesn't work as well as I'm sure they hoped. But I
and
would,
that's kind of a shame because like Tempest is
Easily the best thing about the entire movie.
yeah,
and like we can get to the story bits later, but like as aesthetically, she is like designed for the animation pipeline that they use
Mhm.
for the movie.
Oh, yeah,
So
Tempest was like
she
the
comes
most
off
active character, the most actively animated character in this movie, I would
Yeah.
argue.
I mean,
Oh,
there may be
absolutely.
contract reasons for that because she's also like the top billed actor as well.
Yeah, Emily Blunt, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I do wonder if it perhaps came from somewhere in that all the other characters, or rather, I should say, all the other pony characters, are ones that we've seen in the show. We're used to how they look and move and act and express over almost a decade now. And Tempest is the only pony character, I believe, that in the show, in the movie, is the only one that appears only in the movie. So when we see her, we don't have that preconception to kind of like create that. I mean, there were, yeah. I mean, you can say there is definitely a couple of wee things where time or budget showed with all the animation in general, but I think there was a certain level of uncanny valley created because it was completely different from what everyone's used to seeing these characters act with.
Yeah.
And then you've got this one character where that is no longer the case. There's no preconceptions, and it's built up on this new animation style entirely from scratch, and comes off a lot better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one thing that that I thought to myself when the first trailers dropped for this movie is I was blown away. Like, I was both interested and a bit worried about the new designs, because I did notice that bit of uncanny valley, and it mostly comes in like they have no black irises, they're colored irises, and they have these sparks. I'm sorry, not irises, I meant pupils. There's no black pupils, and like there's sparkles in the irises, and like the snout has been completely reworked from the show, which lends itself to this sort of familiarity with the show, but not quite.
Yeah.
But I never got that with Tempest. And speaking of like that translation from show to movie, this was pointed out in an article on Equestria Daily, how each of the main six had their own dedicated walk style animation for their character. Because in the show, in Flash, it's just like a copy paste of the same animation with different color. But in the movie, there's a good shot of them entering Capper's windmill home, and they each have their own walking animation, and like it fits for their character. Obviously, Pinky is always having this sort of pronking sort of movement,
Mm.
and then Rarities is very light and airy. Uh, Rainbow Dash has this sort of hopping motion. It's
Yeah.
something that, like, if you haven't noticed, I would recommend going back to that specific shot to take a closer look at it.
And I mean, not in the show. I mean, not this specific example, but it's one of the things that, of course, people were interested in the show for in the first place. Is that they like to put in lots and lots of little details, sort of characterizing the ponies and the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, not on the same scale because of the different budget and the different resources, but you know, it was nice to see that carried forward.
I think that's what you call vaguely competent animation.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like, not,
Tell us
not-
what you
not-
really think,
not to-
Horse.
not to be glib, but like that's congratulating a book for being spelled correct.
Okay, yes, but it's still nice to see.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it's. I think what really. I was actually trying to pinpoint much the same thing for it on how that animation was going down for it. And I think, like I said, that the moments where they allow the characters to rest in place a little are generally, I feel, a lot better. Everyone remembers the expression Twilight makes at the table, sternly looking over at Dash, for
Yeah.
example.
That was great.
And I think it may also be somewhat related to why Tempest holds up as well. All of the main six, especially, who are kind of the ones everyone will think with for this, they're very, even, Flourish Highlight, they're all very hyperactive in their animation style. They make lots of sudden, sharp movements. They have a lot of facial expression changes that are used to taking every little, and, oh, goodness, what's her name? Horse, help me out here. What's Glimmer's real name again?
What? Starlight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten.
Are you
her
talking
name.
about Starlight Glimmer?
Yes,
Okay,
her voice actress.
Oh, I do not remember her name
no idea.
at all.
No, I
So someone look that up while I continue.
Alright,
She
I
was
got it.
she was speaking at Brony Scott, and she mentioned how every single line that she says, it feels like they animate every little touch of what she puts in her voice. And the movie indeed does that, and the main six are especially affected by this, and they all try to go for every little sound that the voice actor makes. This is what it does in the show as well, and it produces really, really good stuff. But in the movie, I have a feeling with for those who maybe don't know the term stretch and squash with animated characters is the exaggeration and pulling back of expression to create the sense of movement and personality. That's a very simplified way to put it, but I feel in the movie with those characters, it's slowed down from what we're used to. And all of the movements have this slightly, I wouldn't say sluggish, but smoother, slower style to meet those expressions, which in movement can feel a little unsure. And this is, again, where I think Tempest is really, really good, because almost all the way through the movie, every movement she makes is really chill, considered, calm, confident, and is actually quite smooth and slow anyway with how her personality works. And it's most especially seen near the beginning when she's telling off that thing that hangs about with her, and then sort of has to breathe and just let out the stress a little. And that's one of the best animated sequences in the entire movie. And it's when she's slow. And I think her character suits that animation style in the hyperactive way, with this slower stretch and squash that the movie uses compared to the show, than those other more hyperactive characters maybe don't.
I do agree, Fuzzy. Every scene with Tempest is the best scene.
Yeah, I mean that is the one thing that everyone who sees this agrees on. Like, she is by far the best thing about this entire movie.
Waifu
Yeah.
Absolutely.
intensifies.
So,
I mean,
go on, Horse.
I was gonna say I can't help but wonder if there's like, maybe I'm just reading too much into this. The idea that there might actually be like something legal to do with why there's something slightly off about the main six characters, where is there like the core characters of the property? There's like a bunch of stuff from Hasbro where they're just like they have to look like this and they have to look like that, whereas they have a bit more freedom with characters made specifically for the film.
Well, this is sort of going
it certainly would have come up with like the designs of the characters themselves.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair point.
I'm not really one to like look into media beyond like the movie, because I think the movie should stand on its own. But like if we look into the art of My Little Pony, then we do see that there was a lot of production time put into Tempest's character. For the fact that Tempest Shadow was originally going to be a stallion named Cosmos that had a completely different design, almost draconic in style.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing some stuff from the concept art and being amazed at how dark some of the concept
Oh yeah, it
art
was
really
it was really dark. And speaking of which, this is something that I want to touch back on what Snipe said, and this will be like the last thing we'll talk about in terms of visuals before we move on to like other technical aspects of the movie. But a lot of the concept art of like some of the places that the main six were going to go, especially Klugeltown, it was originally going to be a town built around the skeleton of this big ass dead dragon skeleton with a diamond heart that they were mining.
That sounds really cool.
It's fucking metal, is what it is.
I think that's one of the things that just I really liked about the aesthetic of the film. Where it's like even if not all of that made it through, there's still like a sense of it. There's vistas that feel like a prog rock cover. You know, you have this completely abandoned hippogriff city. You've got the shoreline with the fucking huge rocks. You've got that town was just great. Like that's where I started making Don Bluth comparisons, where they're just on the approach to this town and it's all, you know, a bit kind of shady and sort of gothic isn't quite the right word, but sort of that kind of
drab.
Yeah.
Drab has the wrong connotation. I kind of get where I'm getting. Well, but it's like it's dark and exaggerated.
Yeah,
you know,
it's gnarly.
It's
you know,
really vertical city as well, but the contrast as well of having the really bright, cute characters in the middle of it all is just great.
I mean, what I've seen of the art book, I think it's pretty much a recurring theme in their design process that what they came up with at first for pretty much everything in the movie was pretty much like something out of Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
Really, you know, quite dark and serious and adult. And it was like, okay, now we've got this awesome concept. We kind of need to dial it back for kids. And that was basically their design process for a lot of the movie's aesthetic design. So yes, the town was originally going to be built around this massive skeleton, and it's like, okay, we can't really do that. So it's, you know, this huge ramshackle town built around the mountain instead. And Tempest again dialed back from this original really, really edgy design, you know, to the point where she had like artificial limbs and you know, a living staff and all this sort of crazy out there stuff.
I think a lot of this entire podcast is going to come down to this. Oh, and by the way, Tempest was also awesome because of this.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be me once we get to the story portion.
Yeah. I would say I somewhat disagree on those. Well, I'll clarify. I partially disagree because I agree that those Vista shots that they do a few of them throughout it, and they are without doubt absolutely amazing all the way through it. They're the best shots in the entire movie. One of the ones I actually never noticed is near the end of the movie when at the end of Tempest's song, when Twilight sees the Equestria being sort of turned over to the Storm King. I never noticed you can actually see Ponyville in that shot down there burning. Just
Oh,
just to
God,
throw
really?
that,
Damn.
yeah, just to throw that one out there for people who maybe didn't see it the first time. Yeah, Ponyville burns.
Damn.
So-
I need to watch it again.
Yeah, so
Curse you, Fuzzy.
yeah, that was the only appearance of Ponyville in there, which sort of brings me on to my point for why I really actually didn't enjoy a lot of the settings that were in there. And that part of what I really like, and basic kind of test to how much I go over the scenery porn tags
Mhm.
and stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, same
Um,
here.
Part of what I love about the world that's been created for this show is how many unbelievably incredible locations it comes up with, from Rainbow Falls to Cloudsdale, Canterlot, Ponyville itself, Everfree, over to even just Manhattan and the way it builds up in this crazy, over bustling, colourful way. Crystal Empire. I could honestly go on. And I felt that the movie never had any of that throughout it. I felt like for a show that has had such a strength with colour, visual, and spectacle in its environments, to instead choose a blank wasteland, a dull city, clouds, a deserted coastline, a ruined city, and then water as its locations is incredibly disappointing to me. And I keep thinking, where's the places like the Crystal Empire where there's so much to see and so much to take in? Where is your Cloudsdale like grandeur all around you with this city that actually moves up and down amongst itself and everything? And I really feel that it lost a lot of what makes the world feel really incredible to visit and see, and have this more fairy tale rather than fantasy style to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I really felt like it missed an opportunity with that to do it on the big screen and see what it can really pull through. And it just ended up feeling very dull visually to me throughout, for something that you go in expecting a lot of colour from, to then use some of the more generic environments about it.
I think I can see, why they did it that way. Because, of course, the premise of the film was that they were leaving Equestria in large part. Now, obviously, that's no excuse for outside of Equestria to be dull. But I think pretty much the message they were trying to get across in terms of like the setting construction was that outside Equestria is actually shit. So, to try and sort of emphasize that the ponies come from this cutesy, happy little utopia in the middle of a world that's actually not quite so nice and cuddly when you look at it. I mean, that's been a recurring theme throughout the show as well. So, yes, I think in that sense they certainly missed an opportunity to really use some of these fantastic sort of, imaginative environments. But I think it's understandable why they didn't necessarily do that. So perhaps, I don't know, getting ahead of myself here, but maybe if there was a sequel, they might capitalize more on Equestria itself as a setting rather than, trying to sort of stretch outside it.
Yeah, my real worry is if they do that sequel to do it, it's going to become a case of you gain something, you lose something. This is one that had the budget to get the celebrities on, to get the moment, the hype, the marketing, and be the first big one. And I feel if the second one goes for lower budget, not as much fancy stuff, not as much time, very kind of direct to TV type thing, it's going to feel like you've gained something, but at the same time you've lost the moment, you've lost the opportunity. That kind of ties into what I was saying I felt with my overall thing. When I say disappointment, I don't say I went in and this was terrible. I mean more I went in and this feels like it was missed potential.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, one other quick thing. While that is obviously true, the only thing I would point to, in this particular case, would be Equestria Girls. The first one was crap. Everyone expected it to be crap. The second one was actually pretty good. It was a big step up from the first one. So perhaps, speaking in terms of, just blind optimism, maybe if there's another MLP movie, and there might be, I think there's rumors that they're working on it already. Maybe that'll follow the same pattern. It's, I'm speculating, but
It's
I think
possible.
there's room for optimism. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's possible. But it's just that sense of I don't think Equestria Girls had that same feeling of, oh, you're taking a big step here. Make use of this opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I want
'cause
to.
then-
Sorry, go on.
You go. No, I was actually sort of speaking and thinking, and immediately already thinking, "Oh, geez, I opened my mouth. Where am I going?"
Okay,
So
good.
you go.
It's a good thing I interrupted you. So I want to take this talk of comparing it to Equestria Girls and how like there were a lot of missed opportunities. I want to take this moment to use this as a diving board to get into my personal problem with the narrative, which is like, and I hate. There's no way to say this without not sounding like a complete dick, but I'm just gonna say that a lot of the story's problems comes down to this being written by Megan McCarthy, who also wrote Equestria Girls. And and if you like pay attention to a lot of the episodes that Megan McCarthy has written, you can see her narrative footprints all over this movie. In fact, like it's obvious. I don't know how you feel, but to me it's obvious that this movie was written right off the heels of season 4 because it uses a lot of the same elements that McCarthy used for the season 4 premiere and finale. Like the princesses are rendered useless and do nothing, they're practically powerless, which is different from previous seasons and after seasons of the princesses being useless in that like they're unable to defend themselves and there's this magical MacGuffin that like that just sort of circumvents any reasoning to like it's like the plot calls for okay, the princesses have to be rendered like out of the equation and they can't do anything and Twilight has to save it along with their friends, so they have to set out in pursuit of this other magical MacGuffin to save the princesses. And meanwhile, we have this villain whose sole motivation and goal is to, quote, gain power to take over Equestria and to also consume alicorn magic. This villain being assisted by an insider that betrays ponies, and then this character is later betrayed by the villain, creating to like go back to the good side, as it were. And like at the most important, lowest part of the story, Twilight is contrivedly separated and isolated from her friends. Which,
Yeah,
based off that description, what did I describe?
yeah, you were basically. Yeah, that's essentially the T-Rex episodes right there.
And also Equestria Girls. Sort of to an
Mhm.
extent with Sunset Shimmer. And this is like another problem with Megan McCarthy's villains. There's no substance to them. Like all they want is more power and to take over Equestria, and she uses this over and over again. And like and I thought nothing of it on the first watching, but like on subsequent watchings, keeping in mind that this was written by Megan McCarthy, was like, wow, this is really her doing.
I'm not sure I particularly. I mean, it's worth saying that the similarities you point out are like, oh yeah, they're absolutely there. It's a fairly classic hero-villain tale anyway.
Well, yeah.
But I'm not sure I agree so much about the downsides of the characters. For I mean, funnily enough, when I was rewatching it, the thing that kept going through my mind is, damn, why do we not get more footage of the Storm King here?
Yeah,
And,
that was actually one of my criticisms. Like, you continue. I'll talk about this a bit.
Yeah, I just really, felt that he had a much better presence than I thought he would. And I should clarify that the T-Rex episodes are my least favorite finale of the entire thing, even more than season 3. I'll throw that out there. And a lot of that came down to various reasons. But the Storm King, I actually absolutely love. I really want to see that dude come back because there was something about his whole. I mean, there's the trope punch clock villain that goes about, but I've never seen a punch clock super villain in that manner before. in the sense that he spends most of the movie talking about his brand, his image. You get the sense this guy is in control of an empire and is suddenly having to think about all of the actual logistics that come with that.
Yeah.
And
Like,
I
the
thought that's
fucking-
actually
the Griffins are hauling merchandise.
yeah, exactly. I
Fucking
thought that's
bobbleheads of him.
yeah. It's especially this coming from Hasbro, but
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I
it's
hate.
really funny as a villain concept. I wish we saw more, even if his motivation is just to take over the world.
Yeah.
Because of course, I really enjoyed his little tale and idea and how he went about it. He finally gets all the power at the end, and what happens? He doesn't know what to do with it. He's like a dog
Yeah.
chasing a car, and I thought that's great. He's just he's not really a massive powerful villain unto himself. He's just a canny leader who's just out to do that. Just the way Hole does it and the aloof style, fantastic stuff from him. His goal might have been simple, but I really wish he didn't change at all, and that if anything, we just saw more of him because he was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, he was great fun.
Yeah, it's the fact that they basically offloaded all the the threat duty onto Tempest, which let the Storm King just be a straight up comedic villain.
Yeah.
I mean
The Storm King really needed some kind of like presence in the middle of the film. That was, I think, what he really lacked.
Yeah. I think like when I was talking about those, environments for it, I really kept like there are some hints that it's his area throughout. Like you see his posters every so often in the background in the city. The pirates, like you see, are hauling merchant like
There's
hand
mention to
puppets and stuff.
Stormbucks.
There's like a couple of references here. I really think they could have pushed further with that. Because the first time I watched it, it never really clicked with me that we're going through this Storm King dominated territory. And it seems to want to imply it, but it never lands it hard enough. I took more of the impression that all these people out here are just really not nice people, rather than they're people living under duress.
Yeah.
Which is kind of curious. The ending never resolves that.
I
Actually,
think this is where the legal things might be coming up again. The fucking where what you just put into my head the idea that this story would just make it would have a lot more impact. You only changed one thing, and that was if between the ponies falling off the bridge and them starting their quest, there was a time gap of question mark amount of time.
Mhm.
And it's just like in that time, the Equestria is occupied. The Storm King has basically assumed a sort of he hasn't got the magic, but he has got control, and like he's maybe add a couple more equestrian scenes into it. I mean, you mentioned about Ponyville in the corner burning, but like that would add a lot more impact to it, where it's like it's not just going through these locations we've never seen before. It's like, yeah, this guy's actually a pretty bad dude. Now, it still doesn't get around the fact that we have to kind of remove the princesses by contrivance and just pretend Discord isn't there. But the canon of this show is so tangled that something like that is going to end up happening.
Yeah, the
And
game's
hey,
all over the
also-
place.
And hey, more scenes with the ponies and harnesses. What could possibly go wrong?
See, that was one thing I found interesting, is that in all of these societies that the Storm King just steamrolls through and takes over, he just sort of sets up this, like, merchandising thing, but, like, he lets them alone for the most part, but then he gets to Equestria, and then, like, he just enslaves them. And like, and that's so different from his usual modus operandi, but I think it comes down to like, okay, like Equestria was like his ultimate goal, so he could get the Alicorn power, so he could stop there, and then like that's where he could set up shop in his home and all that. So maybe that's why he enslaved ponies.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Horse brought up a good point about how like over the course of a scene of a conversation between Tempest and the Storm King, the main six go from Canterlot all the way down south to the Badlands. and there's nothing in between. Going back to the art of My Little Pony, the movie, there was originally this plan to have this travel segment. And I'm
Yeah.
also entirely convinced that during that travel segment from Equestria to the Badlands, there was supposed to be something going on with Applejack. She was supposed to have her own scene, strengthening her role as the element of honesty.
Yeah.
Then later
As-
on, after the airboat scene, after like the ponies escape, there was supposed to be another scene down in the forest below, where like they come across some sort of mud creatures, where Fluttershy was supposed to have her scene, both of which
Fluttershy
got
was in
cut.
this movie?
Yeah, no, she wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that like she practically had no presence except for one shot in the finale with the
Mhm.
fight against the Storm Guards.
I mean,
Mhm.
to be fair, writing ensembles is really hard.
Yeah, they can be.
That actually,
If
that actually comes to my main issue with the writing.
Hmm.
Just to go back to that thing about Fluttershy and Applejack, I believe, from what I've heard, there was originally a plan for all of the ponies to have their own individual sort of little scene
Yeah.
to sort of shine and show off. And Fluttershy and Applejack didn't get that. And I think this was because, and this also goes back to the whole sort of maybe executive meddling sort of side of the writing. A lot of the film was dedicated to the new characters, pirates, the sea ponies, and so on, who, while sometimes they were great, Tempest, Storm King, other times they were pretty shit, unfortunately. And they took up a whole lot of time that really didn't contribute to the story itself. And I think at times they were just there because, hey, celebrity billing. Hey, buy our toys.
The thing is that aside from Emily Blunt, I can't think of any of the others being a celebrity. I have no idea who they are.
Maybe Kristen Chenoweth.
Never heard of her.
I've heard of
Liev
it before.
Schreiber?
Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth. No,
Yeah.
is it
Who's
Sabretooth?
Sabretooth?
I think
Who's
he was
Sabretooth?
From the X
From the
Men?
Wolverine movies.
Oh, I thought you were meaning a character in the movie. I was
No,
like,
no,
wait,
yeah, no.
I usually make a joke. I don't
Liev-
remember these characters' names. This time, I genuinely don't.
Liev Schreiber played as Wolverine's brother.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Snipe, you just mentioned something. Okay, right. Okay, so in defense of this movie and going into a bit of analysis, the whole part where like Rarity has her scene with Kappa, Rainbow Dash has her scene with the pirates, Pinkie Pie has her scene with the sea ponies.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually quite subtly brilliant because there's this theme of friendship in this movie, which obviously, and
Really?
like,
You sure?
yeah. Okay, all right, okay. Thank you very much. But no, there's this theme of Twilight's friends making friends with these complete strangers, whereas Twilight is very ironically averse to socializing with these strangers. And it's like each of her friends can make these new friends wherever they go, but Twilight is having this difficulty, and I can see how that would build up into the first climax of the movie where like Twilight betrays her friends to try to steal that magical MacGuffin from the sea ponies. And there's this whole theme of Twilight friendship didn't fail for her, she failed friendship. And also going into that theme of Tempest's I can't find the word for it right now because it's 6 a.m. But basically Tempest's jadedness towards trusting others and making friends. So, and I can see how each of the main 5 would have their moment where they would befriend someone. and throughout the movie, Twilight has this thing of, oh, God, I can't believe that I have to deal with this shit right now. And you can, and that's another thing. I believe that Twilight's heel face turn near the end of the movie is entirely justified and predictable. You can even see that at the beginning of the first song, We Got This Together, or like all her friends are like they're setting up for the festival. It's like, it's okay, Twilight, we got this. But Twilight has this expression of, I'm not really convinced about this, with a certain like a grimace expression.
And she was entirely right.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you look at, I've this is the one scene that I have disagreed with more in people than anything else, is this whole scene of her betraying them, because my belief, and even after watching it, I can see they maybe intended it, but I don't think it happened. And looking at the movie just as a movie and not thinking about meta detail, the movie does not set this up in the slightest. For her to suddenly decide, hey, I'm going to become a criminal now and betray the best friends I've been with for years. The movie does not set that up at all for me. Because when it comes to Cat Dude, Flapper, Capper, Crapper, okay. When he turns up, Twilight is entirely correct. He does try and betray them right on the spot.
But then, thanks to Rarity's generosity and like trusting of him, she is able to change that about him.
But that comes after Twilight's already made this correct decision to not trust this guy, and it's based, and they only escape through of absolute whim that puts them in great danger. And then they come into this thing with these pirates who openly say, "What should we do with them? Should we eat them? Should we?" And then one of them actually says, "We should scar them."
Emotionally.
And then the next one says, "Emotionally." Like, oh yeah, okay, I've got a better idea. Let's murder them. It's just like, and then it goes through all of that, and it's like, yeah, she is very willfully, taking the best course here. And then it's the one that gets them all out of there when, no matter, I mean, those pirates, there was no way they could prevent Tempest getting to her, and she's the one who gets them out. Like, without her doing that, they would have just been caught and failed the movie right there and then. And then suddenly, it comes to this scene where it's like, oh, I'm, apparently, you're all fine making friends, but I'm not, and thus I'm going to become a criminal and betray everyone? What? There's no logical build-up to this at all.
I do have a rebuttal to this, and this is going back to my grievances with Megan McCarthy writing this movie, and just how shit the writing is and inconsistent. Okay, so, at the beginning of the movie, when Tempest first shows up, Twilight is entirely willing to hey, what's going on? Maybe we can talk this out. And then that completely goes in the face of everything else in the movie, where Twilight doesn't even give these other characters a chance at friendship, whereas her friends do. And you can see even in the show that Twilight at least tries to befriend others. She doesn't completely distrust them right off the bat. She makes steps and motions. And to me, that's Twilight was written that way because the plot needed it.
That's what I mean. It really felt like it just came to this one scene. They're we don't have any drama leading into the finale right now. What should we do? Oh, have her do this. And it really felt just out of nowhere to me. It was completely against her character in general. This
it was against her character, but that's because you got to consider who's writing her.
It's we're gonna build up so she's frustrated, and that it pushes her over the edge because she's never been under this before. What? she's been under way worse than this movie shows multiple times. There's been one when she's been quite literally left on her own in a hell dimension of chaos with all of her friends turned against her and a chaos god mocking her the whole time, and she figured that out. This is nothing compared to what she's been through in the show.
Yeah,
so I really don't understand where this sudden thing of her going this far to do it comes from.
It's the
It's-
same writer as the Tyrek episode and Equestria Girls, and
You ha-
also
you-
the Vine episodes.
Put your grudge against Megan McCarthy to one side for 1 minute, young man, because I have a counter argument.
Okay, Dad.
Oh boy, here we go.
So, I would my defense of this movie's plot and its apparent illogical inconsistencies from time to time are that it makes a lot more sense if you treat it like a musical, where things in musicals don't necessarily all make complete logical sense. They're not something your brain gets. There's something. I'm going to sound really. Yeah, there's something. Okay, fair enough. There's something your feelings. It's the emotional arc is more important than the logical arc. And I mean, if you just look at the sequence of events logically, it's here's a bunch of people we've just met for the first time and we have no reason to care about. But the real story, I mean, it is suffering a bit from having all these planned out bits that they didn't get around to. But the course of the film is this conflict between Twilight, who is overthinking, her role, and trying to, voice logic where logic isn't necessarily the solution, compared with, so Pinky ended up as kind of the spokesperson for the for everyone else, who just represents. I mean, it's a horse property, so it's all about friendship, of course. And what they do is they go through the movie making friends, and Twilight isn't a friend. She's just trying to, solve the puzzle. And even if she does bail them out from time to time, she's not happy about it. Like that really funny scene where she just like cranks forward like she's on a hinge and compares it
Yeah.
out. There's bits of that everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like her solution is let's not trust these people. Let's just keep following our instructions, and that ultimately leads to her undoing. Meanwhile, her friends are let's trust. Let's not assume the worst of people and make friends as we go. And the friends that they make, even if the scenes themselves aren't 100% the best written, like trusting strangers in an unknown city is probably not the best idea, but friends that they make are what saves them in the end. And even if some of those scenes aren't the most logical, there's still these nice just emotional moments, like the bit where the switch flips in Capper's mind and he's like, oh god, what have I done? Just like when he realizes that this person has just honestly just fixed his coat out of the kindness of her heart, and he is about to sell her into slavery. And he's just like, oh god.
Whoops.
And it's like, because after the rat dude turns up, they don't trust him anymore. They're just gone. But he's still helping them even though they don't know about it. And like this keeps coming up where it's like they make friends and friends are what helps them, and it's the same thing that Twilight has had to learn fucking several times. it's one of those things where just put your show knowledge on ice for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a good point, because I think, obviously, one of the restrictions that they were working with in terms of the movie, and among all the others that we've put up already, is that, it's, for better or worse, aimed at normies.
Yeah.
It's got to get the big sort of parents and kids audience, and you can't expect all of that audience to have watched most or even any of the show. So, unfortunately, this means that they may have to repeat character arcs, as in the case of Twilight. And actually, I think what they were going for was sort of a middle ground in the sense that, and we could dispute how well this actually was pulled off. I think the idea was Twilight, being the smart one, picks up on information very quickly. I think what they were going for was that, okay, we're outside Equestria, and Twilight picks up very quickly. Things outside Equestria don't necessarily work the way that they do inside Equestria. So she immediately tosses aside all of her sort of, okay, let's make friends and be nice, because, the rules are different. We need to find another way of doing things. And everybody that they come across seems to be this kind of ruthless, out for themselves, person that will just go straight after what they want. So Twilight's, when she goes after the Pearl and betrays everybody because she's a Muppet, I think the intention was for her thought process there to be, this is how things work out here. And it's not something I want to do, but it's something I need to do to save Equestria. So she's looking at it from a pragmatic standpoint. But, she's lost that sort of faith in friendship because, again, she's received evidence that doesn't necessarily seem to work out here, even though she's wrong. I think that's what they were going for anyway. Maybe I'm overthinking. And there's definitely a case to be made that they didn't necessarily communicate that well if that was their intention. But
I think perhaps that could have worked. Like, all you would have needed is one scene of a person who is not from Equestria telling her that. That's how things work out here. And that's all it would have needed, I think, just to set it up ahead of time. Just have some character saying to her about why her method's not going to work and about this is why ours works. Hell, you could have had Tempest say it.
I mean,
you could have had her say it on the airship or something before they.
It's
they get away.
slightly the impression you get from the first town they come across and how they're fucking. The first thing that the people in this town do is try to buy them.
Yeah, not even that. They try to buy Twilight's horn.
If that's not kicking your brain to go this is a really Twilight's got a really bad first impression. Her friends are just blithering idiots. I don't know what else is going to give you that impression.
I don't think so. I think that's just a basic scene setup. I don't think that's actually introducing the theme that would be required for such an important scene down the line.
I suppose for the theme to show up, it would need to show up a lot. And that's
I think it's because in some ways, like, as it goes through, like every single single time they meet something, it's dealt with so quickly that that it distracts you from that feeling that Twilight's having. It's like, okay, she's meant to be getting more stressed, but they're succeeding in everything they encounter. Now, in fact, I actually took note of this because I noticed it while I was watching. From the moment the pirates are first introduced to the moment that they are totally, we're on your side, including the song, is 4 minutes.
So would you say that the pacing is an issue?
Oh, the pacing? I don't know what to think of the pacing, because on one hand, these characters take up far too much of the movie, and yet on the other hand, their scenes are over very, very quickly. I have no idea how they managed to bend physics to create this pacing in this movie.
This is another common complaint against Megan McCarthy.
It's like, you get off your crusade horse, sir.
I'm not! It's just Megan McCarthy does things that, like, just pisses me off. And I wish she hadn't written this movie.
I think this ties back to the point I made earlier about how they had to include all of these extra characters and all of these extra parts because, they have to sell the toys, they have to justify the voice actors, they have to include all of this because the red tape says so. So, we've got the pirate scene. Okay, obligatory pirate scene over, pirates can fuck off.
It's quite interesting that they deal with how they deal with that, and that they were clearly told you need to have sea ponies in so that we can film it, so that we can sell it. You need to have hippogriffs in there so that we can sell it. And they also said, we're never going to sell this. Screw it, they're both the same.
So okay, let me just say, I love and I do appreciate that like Rainbow Dash's scene with the pirates, this is like the first actual callback to one of the earliest IDW comics, where like the main six come across these pirates, and it's revealed as a part of Rainbow Dash's character that she loves pirates, and that she's always wanted to be one. So I just thought that that was like really cool to throw in there to sort of to tie into the
Implying it was
comics.
completely accidental.
I'm sorry, what was that, Fuzzy? I didn't catch that.
Implying it wasn't completely accidental.
It probably was accidental.
But I
'cause
agree.
That was probably
It's
not,
nice
not done
when you see that
intentionally.
it is nice when you see that sort of consistency in there. If only the rest of the movie had that there. Oh,
Yeah.
I've got the plot hole of centuries to come to at some point. I actually have an entire list of plot holes here because goddamn, this movie has a bunch of them.
Oh boy.
Musical logic, not important.
Oh, that's no, I'll believe it. I'll get to when we get to them. I'll get to them.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I mean, from my criticism of that whole scene, the build, I can see what people mean for it, but at least when I viewed, I just felt so distracted from feeling that on first viewing, to come across a scene for any reason, it makes you go, wait a minute, why are they doing this? Build up, subtle build up in the background or not, is generally an indication that if your biggest, most important scene change has anyone at all going, why are they doing this? There's some issues there.
Yeah. I mean, I had brought up how the animation looks like it suffered from a shortage of time and budget, and the writing probably did the same. I mean, I feel like they did well with what they had, but obviously there's a lot of. I mean, the fact that I've had to mount a defense says a lot.
For the budget this movie had, it could have been a lot worse, and I'm thankful for what we got.
Yeah,
because as I said, like as many
Yeah.
problems as I have with this movie, I still find it greatly enjoyable and entertaining.
Yeah, I don't think I'd rewatch it again, but from what they had and the restrictions they had to work under, I mean, the more I watch it, the more I realize how many restrictions they had on them for this. I can certainly understand what they go through, and especially for getting it made without falling into the Sony trap. If anyone's heard of that leaked email, essentially when a Sony executive was shown the treatment for the film, and they said they didn't know what was going on, they didn't agree with this. Why can't we have something that's more simple to understand on first viewing? Can't we bring them to the human world or something like that?
Oh no.
And I was like, well, no matter what we got, the fact that it actually was mostly in canon with what people are used to is good onto itself like that. So
As I said, it could have been a lot worse.
What was that from?
That was I think it was some leaked emails or documents or something about when they tried to pitch it to Sony, and Sony had basically written back to them saying that I feel like I've needed to understand so much better in advance. Who is this? Why are they doing that? Why is that person this? Why can't you just make it simpler? If you're marketing to kids, just make it be the ponies come to the real world and stuff. And I don't know if they wanted to do it live action or whatever, but they basically want it to be Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah, because that worked so well for the Smurfs.
The hurtful thing is it actually did. That made them a lot of money.
Oh, it did?
This is the sad fact about animation. Because most animation is marketed to kids. There's not a lot of reason, not a lot of incentive for it to be done well, because
kids will watch anything.
They don't. Well, it's not necessarily that kids will watch anything. It's that parents don't care what their kids will watch. They want to. They're going to take their kids to the movies on Saturday and fall asleep in the cinema.
Yeah.
While their kids are, they don't have to listen to them for
an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And of course, the reason, the big reason that the show even got a fandom of people that weren't, 10-year-old girls, 5-year-old girls in the first place, was because, it was an animated show that you could watch without wanting to tear your eyes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's something that would have been great here for. I will say, as much as I have this list of plot holes, I also have a list of details that I never noticed before that I really enjoyed. So, you know,
Let's say-
there's going to be both those sides from me. It's not just going to look into saying, oh, and here's all these things that were wrong. There was actually a bunch of stuff I thought was really cool that I never noticed the first time.
What I would like to do is I would like to save all of our like favorite parts about the movie until the very end. So hold on to that for now.
Well, I was meaning it's just little details that I wonder if people even realize or spotted. Not really like big. Oh, and this was the big, loving things. To give for example, one is the fact that I never noticed the first time that Derpy actually had a line.
One line, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, like that. I never noticed that at all. And like I thought that she just stumbled in front of that thing, at the beginning and got crystallized. I'm like, no, she actually. Just like Twilight, just like dives. So like, well, okay.
I don't know.
That was actually a conscious decision.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like written into it or if this was storyboarded into it, but whoever decision that was, shout out to them. Because that is like the best use of a fandom favorite character to do. Like
Protecting the character that most of the fandom dislikes the wings of.
Yeah, and
like protecting the princess, the one thing that broke everyone.
And essentially saving Equestria. Derpy should be a hero.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I remember, like a friend did drawings over with a medal because they very much thought, why doesn't she get a medal in this show?
Yeah. She absolutely deserves it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like there was another thing I found was just quite enjoyable. Going back to what we were just talking about, the scene around the sea ponies and hippogriffs it's just a tiny thing, but I laughed every single time I saw it. Is when they get those bubbles around their heads, and you notice that AJ's hat stays affixed to the top of the bubble.
Yeah,
it just follows her around all the time.
Yeah, that's a cute little detail.
Yeah, it does that in the sea pony scene as well. When they're swimming around, her hat just sort of magically follows her about a couple of inches above her head.
Knowing what I do about animation, that was probably actually easier.
Oh yeah, it would be almost sound like, what are we going to do with her hat? Do we put it inside? It's gonna make her have to have a giant bubble, which is going to throw everyone off. Screw it, just put it in the outside.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Keep it there.
You
That's great. I really
asset to fit in the bubble and.
I do like that if it wasn't for Princess Skystar, the main six would have fucking drowned and the movie would have ended as soon as they got to their destination.
Like it just fades to black and it's just like credits music.
And it's the upbeat tones like, oh, well, alright. To be continued in part 2?
Twilight fucking drowns.
Yes, I'll die.
Yeah. I think what I find quite amusing is that after that happens, her friends immediately go, or I think it's Rarity, it just says, oh, you took your time over that, Twilight, for creating the bubbles. And there's two ways that you can think about this, and both of them are equally hilarious, is that on one of them, they know that she has a spell that can do this, and that apparently she got. And the other one is that they're so used to Twilight's role in the story that they just expect her to pull a Deus Ex Machina out of nowhere at this point. Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's like what was it, like the DWK put in one of his things where like it's saying, damn it, Twilight, it's like you can't just say that you're going to go around and make everything better no matter what. Sometimes you get like, no, hell no, that's exactly how my life has worked thus far. And I just love that it's like clearly her friends expect and rely on this fact now that she'll just do something. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they intended that to be one of the funniest jokes of the entire thing.
If they did, it's a dark joke, and I love it.
Yeah.
So switching gears here.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on to talking about the main character of the movie, Tempest Shadow?
Yeah, I was about to say, if you said anything other than Tempest, I would have said you're lying.
Tempest is the main character. And like it could be argued that she has like the most characterization and she actually goes through growth. But there is one thing in this movie that cements it in my mind that Tempest is the main character. And that's when Twilight pulls out the trope of, we're not so different, you and I, and then Tempest says, we're nothing alike. Which is usually the other way around. Usually the villain says we're very much alike and the hero says we're nothing alike.
See,
Yeah.
this is where the crack theories about Twilight is actually the villain of the story.
Maybe it was all planned. Maybe she knew it was going to happen and she was going to let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into some pretty deep lore at this point.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah, and this is where someone's going to bring up the horn shadows. No doubt.
yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to actually have to head off now.
All right,
Okay,
Snipe.
no problem.
I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole thing.
I'm sorry we couldn't have started earlier to try to get this, but
It's fine. It's perfectly fine. I'm sorry that I can't stay for the whole thing. If it was any day other than this particular Saturday, I would be on board for the whole thing.
All right,
So,
well, thank you
I'm
for
very sorry
joining
about
us.
absolutely, yeah, great fun. Cheers, guys.
See you, Snipe.
Good luck. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah. I think it's intriguing when you say about how she is, she's actually the main character. I remember when people in Fury Road came out and everyone said, "Oh, Furiosa is actually the protagonist of
Yeah.
the movie," and
Oh,
they
yeah, she
were
is.
right.
Yeah.
And yet, in this case, Tempest manages to be both the main protagonist and the main antagonist at the same time.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
quite incredible like that. I mean, I know I'm stretching a little bit with that, but it's when you really look back at it and you think, who is it that makes the plot go around in this movie?
It's
It's not
Tempest.
Twilight. It's Tempest the whole way through it.
Yeah.
Like, she's the one that sets up all the bad things that happen, and in the end, she wins, and then she's the one that makes all the good things happen. It's amazing that she manages to be both sides entirely equally, and it's not even really Twilight's convincing that makes her do it. Like, she only really turns to good after she's flagrantly betrayed and cast off by the Storm King. It's not actually really Twilight that does that for her, and there's not really anything that establishes that she's. I mean, there's a line when Tempest is about to fall off the thing, and Twilight catches her and she says, "Why would you do that?" And Twilight says, "Because that's what friends do," which I just wrote BS beside. There's nothing that's established them as friends thus far. But that's it really makes it clear there that she was surprised. It was nothing to do with Twilight that made her do what she does. I almost wonder if you recut this entire film to only feature the Tempest scenes, what that would be like.
It would probably be about a 22-minute episode, and it would work, probably.
Yeah. I just find that quite remarkable at her character for. What were we starting this off on again?
Yeah.
I've forgotten what you were moving this on to.
Basically, I just wanted to gush about my waifu, Tempest Pony.
Go. Okay, you take the floor. You go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to say that when the trailers first dropped for the movie, I was totally on that bandwagon of sort of mocking Tempest as a character. How like, oh, this horse is so edgy. This is Ow the Edge the horse. And then like she finally showed up in the movie, and I was just so enraptured because Tempest is so different from every other sort of like antagonist unicorn that Twilight has had to deal with up to this point, because there could be some similarities to be drawn between Tempest and Sunset Shimmer, and like how they felt betrayed, they went away, and then they came back with this ultimate revenge scheme plan. And then like Twilight comes along, does her magic bullshit thing, and there's this redemption. But Tempest's redemption works so much better than Sunset's because Tempest works. She actually does something to deserve it by like returning the favor to Twilight and sacrificing her life. Whereas for Sunset Shimmer, Twilight just blasted magic at her, and it was like, oh, you're forgiven. Even though you destroyed the school and there's like a crater in front, it's fine.
Yeah, I can get that there. It's definitely very satisfying what she actually comes back to do with it. I definitely felt, okay, she's turned a leaf at the end.
And also, like, Tempest's motive, like, it makes so much more sense than any other antagonist we've seen so far, because she suffered this horrible event, and of course, given the opportunity to get her horn back, yeah, she would jump at it, especially feeling betrayed by her own kind. It's like, Tempest works so much as a villain, and also like not just a villain, but a relatable villain at that. And that's why I love her so much. That's why
Yeah.
I instantly fell in love. What are your thoughts
Oh,
on
yeah.
Tempest Shadow, you guys?
You can go horse, I heard you.
I can't just gush all on my own.
Oh, I'm sure you could. You're just restricting yourself.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to tell anyone who's listening, like, Basic did not stop posting pictures of
Nope.
Tempest for
No.
a good week after
Yeah.
this came out.
Yeah, I was on the Tempest binge.
Yeah. Horse. Sorry, you had something you were going to say.
I don't know if I did.
Oh, dear.
I mean, I've mentioned about how designs are better for the animation style. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of notes. Like, yes, works.
Yeah, I guess I'll say that for Tempest then, like, what really stuck out to me that held her as just the best character in the whole thing was not just down to her acting, because Emily Blunt is an incredible actor.
Mm-hmm.
And especially her adjusting to this form of voice acting is not easy for someone who's used to film acting where everything's very small and subtle. So her coming in was great. Her presence, her design, every scene that she was in, she stole the scene. But it wasn't just that. It was like, and this is going to somewhat move us into talking about something else in the movie as well, is that she had the only song that was legitimately awesome.
Yes.
In the whole thing. It was a song that actually moved the plot along. It actually informed you something about these characters. It made you feel something with the themes, and it was the first one that really explained her motivations for it. I'm sure there's some people that are going to go, "Oh, but if you read the documentation material released ahead of the film," oh, shut up.
Yeah.
That stuff's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's that is the first time you really get a sense of who she is and what it is. That song, it takes what could have been 2 5-minute scenes and puts it into a single 3-minute song. And that's what songs in musicals do. It's what songs in the show have always been at their best when they're telling the story through it, rather than just, this scene has happened and now we're going to sing about what just happened. So, and it's especially, I was actually surprised when I was looking through the credits that it was actually Emily Blunt singing that. They did not get a secondary.
Nice.
singer
I was
to do
wondering about that, if that was actually Emily Blunt singing. Man, she really hit those chords.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
loved it.
She nailed that. It was really well sung, really well presented. Even if I was asking myself constantly, why didn't Twilight just teleport out? But it was.
Well, this is
You
a
know,
thing. And I'm not gonna be, oh, you gotta read the other material to understand. No, like this is a thing that's observed with the Storm King's equipment, is that it seems to negate magic. You can see that in the opening scene of the attack, where Twilight sends a blast of magic at one of the Storm Guard shields, and it just ricochets off. So whatever material that the Storm King stuff is made out of, like it reflects magic.
And they do that with her trying to blast her way out,
Yeah.
but there's nothing that establishes it would stop teleportation.
Maybe it suppresses magic.
Like, all it had to do was have her try it once, and it failed, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, true.
There.
Maybe there wasn't the budget for a television.
But then, yeah, there probably wasn't a budget for teleportation, and also maybe the script writers realized that it would be an easy out. Also, why maybe Discord doesn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, if they just convince Discord to help out, it's just like, yeah, the plot is solved.
Yeah. I mean, going on to... well, we've got the music that's come up anyway. That was a really good one. It's strange, like, as much as I honestly think that's one of the best songs that this show/movie has ever done.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm still deciding whether it's the best one or not, but it's well up there. It's really, really close to that top, and I'm very, very critical of music in context, things like that. I did a lot of musical theater stuff for a while, so I tend to get really high on my horse, about that sort of thing. And so in this case, a lot of the other songs never really hit it for me, because I felt it was either a mixture between them. The songs were just incredibly generic, or were completely irrelevant. to the movie. I mean, for example, Capper's one is every single The Rogue song ever.
Yeah.
And, especially people who've seen a bunch of musicals, it happens in all of them. And it's exactly the same song, it's exactly the same chords. And I felt really disappointed because I felt it seemed like Daniel Ingram's really distinctive musical style never really made it into a lot of the actual vocal songs in the movie.
But you can
he's
hear
got-
it in some of just the score bits of the movie.
in the score, absolutely. But with the vocal tracks,
Yeah.
I honestly wonder how much they forced him. I actually don't know how much he did of those tracks because I never saw his name against a lot of them in the credits.
Yeah.
So I think he may not have actually been involved with a lot of them.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know this, but like there are 2 musical credits in the show at least. There's Daniel Ingram that does the
Yeah.
songs, and then like there's another guy that also does like some of the incidental music, I believe.
Yeah, I heard an interview with him at one point.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I found it quite funny because this was during season 1 and everyone was talking about how their favourite bit of work he did was the Cutie Mark Crusaders Go Crusading. Yeah, that one
Yeah.
that plays, and everyone loved it. And his first response was to say, I hated that. It's like that was his least favourite one that he did, and he thought it was going to be terrible, and everyone loved it. That's always the way when you're creating things. It's always
Yeah.
the thing that you don't like, people suddenly like.
Yeah.
I really feel that Ingram's presence was missed during the vocal tracks. It gave it a really suddenly sharp, different feel. It didn't feel like this show's music at all, and it was a mixture between going for incredibly generic sounds or going for award bait with known singers and stuff. Like the Zootopia ending, for example, was
That
was so unnecessary.
it was not only was it just kind of weird and unnecessary, it was also that's one of the scenes where the lack of budget really shows through because you've got this giant crowd and they're just kind of shuffling from
Yeah.
side to side. That's it.
Yeah, I always find that scene amusing because when you think about it, I know people say don't think about the show, but in this case, because this was what was going through my head when I first saw it. They hire this, and they would have had to hire her, but they hire this apparently really popular pop artist, Songbird Serenade. And she comes on, and she's about her design, her look, the flashy flair and fireworks. Her voice is auto-tuned. And it's all about the spectacle. Gee, isn't this reminding you very closely of a friend of theirs that they explicitly had an episode of making her not do that anymore to get out of a very corrupting business, and then said, "Oh, it's okay. Your career will be fine, and you'll get a lot of good stuff if you're just who you are. Come to the biggest event in the Questers history at the Festival of Friendship." And there's some people are going to get that reference at the Festival of Friendship. And what do? They hire this exact other pop artist when, like, Countess Culture's probably sitting there like, you guys, like, told me that my career would be fine if I was just myself and didn't do all that, and then you just go and hire her?
That's how I believe that is how celebrity actors work, is because like the Sia, the Songbird Serenade, she was a massive fan of the show, and she's like I want to be in the Pony Show, and then they were like, okay, we'll put you in the movie. He's like, oh, that's great, and then she was in the movie, and then yeah.
I just found it so weird. I mean, that was the best episode. Oh, not the best. It was some of the best music they've ever done in the show.
Oh my god, I
Especially-
remember when the animatic for that came out.
I
It was
purposely
beautiful.
didn't watch that. Yeah, I mean, just having a Broadway actress singing for that was unbelievable. And when I saw the start of the movie, I was like, "Oh, they're clearly gonna get her for this. Why wouldn't they?" Nope. We're gonna go against all the morals that we taught in that episode and just screw over one of our friends, just to bring in this other person who does all the things that they told her not to. I know this is going way beyond the thought of just enjoy it. Don't think about it's a slimer. Don't think about that. But
Yeah.
I do. I think about these things, and that one really startled me. Especially is the ending song. If anyone could point to what on earth that had in relevance to the story, I would be stunned and probably call them a liar.
The only relevance is that like the whole point of the opening part of the movie is like, oh, we're gonna have a friendship festival because like Twilight and the Princess of Friendship, so like we need to if Princess Sunbutt can have a summer sun celebration, then Princess Friendbutt can have a friendship celebration, and that's the reasoning, and that's it.
I mean,
Just
this actually reminds me of a note that I made. That now I have better context for it about Daniel Ingram and some of the songs not really meshing together, because one of the songs that Daniel Ingram did write was the song at the start, not the opening song.
We Got
the
This
song-
Together?
yeah. That one
And
is probably the closest to the
Yeah.
show.
Oh, yeah. That one
And-
definitely felt very show-like.
And it's the motifs from that song coming up in the score, and like in some of the other songs as well. And like I thought that was a nice touch of like, because when it comes up at moments when they're working together and making friends. Like I first noticed this in the song with the pirates, where I'm just like, hang on a second, that musical phrase familiar. And then I was watching for it, and then it comes back. It is like the leading melody in the score in the scene where they're like forming a human chain to get the spear.
Yeah, that's actually quite neat. I never noticed that.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thing.
That use of
Yeah.
leitmotif.
Yeah, that's always really neat to see in movies, and I think a lot of movies have more of that than I think people appreciate, even the bad ones at times.
Yeah.
Star Wars, even the prequels, actually has a ton of that I think people don't often notice.
I'm often like when I hear of the term leitmotif for scores in movies, I like to think of the Shire theme from the Lord of the Rings series.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like how it comes back on Mount Doom and everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
And also
Yeah,
like
that-
in certain parts in the Hobbit series, even though it's not as good.
Hmm. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, I will say, outside of the vocal songs, the score it versed from not really noticeable to really good. At points, with a little in between. I think when you notice it and it does something pretty cool, it's really cool. But there's like a bunch of points where it's sort of quite background. But I think that the actual score behind it was better than the vocal song, bar obviously, "Open Your Eyes," which was absolutely amazing.
I actually
and-
found that underwhelming, but
And one of the interesting points about that first song you were mentioning, Horse, at least I think this is in the open. Oh yeah, it is in the opening thing when they're going through we got this together, and it's going around each of them. It's doing the usual My Little Pony thing where it has a scene for all of the main six.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Applejack one when they come to, and she's got this. I think it's a huge barrel of cider.
Yep.
Or something, and they taste it. And they go like, okay, this clearly isn't right yet. And the solution is to pour a barrel of sugar into it on the side. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, this is good. Yeah. Isn't that just ponies in a nutshell?
Yeah.
I laughed so much when I saw that in the second time around. It's just hilarious.
So while we're on the topic, why don't we just gush about some of our favorite parts about the movie?
Yeah, sure. I'm looking to find some. Like, no, that's about this bit. Oh yeah. Here's one I can start off with: the balloon scene. I loved that when I first saw it. When they escaped the pirate ship. and
Oh my
found the
God,
balloon in
yes!
midair.
That is
That was-
my favorite scene out of the entire movie.
Yeah, that was so cool when I saw it. It's inventive. It makes enough sense. And it's just, it's even with the little bits in there, like, people are going to think, wait, why is she grabbing Dash? She can fly. So she actually just looks
That was
really
a
annoyed.
really nice touch where like she's just visibly frustrated by this.
Yeah, that was great. And it's really well paced throughout the building up. And it's that they let her drop without you knowing what she's planning yet. And then pulling it into the shape of something that we know from the show, that we know she's used before. Perfect choice. And then just hitting off the pacing by using Spike to blow it up.
Yeah.
And then all that, and then just the big score, and then it
yes, the
paring
score.
down and then it just pares down and quietens off for them to see this vista that they're drifting towards. That whole sequence is brilliantly paced. It's really good.
The Ingram's tense score during that scene just sells the whole thing for me with the high strung violins and and also and I love how they're on the deck with Tempest, and she's threatening the pirates, and she's counting down, and then you just hear the main six just screaming as they're falling.
Yeah.
And then and then Rarity just steals that scene from me, because you hear, "Oh, for Celestia's sake!" And then the mirror, she's screaming, the mirror comes up, she fabulizes herself, and then it turns into more of a melodramatic scream.
Yeah.
And in the background, there's AJ, and she's looking at Rarity, the mirror passes, and then she's rolling her eyes like, "Oh my god, are you really doing this right now?"
Yeah, there was something else that happened just before Rarity. I remember seeing it and thinking that was amusing, but I can't remember what it is now. I'm gonna have to go and actually boot it up.
It may have been Pinky going from screaming to laughing.
It was after that, but before them. I'm gonna go and silently boot this up, because I can't remember. It was something I saw there that amused me.
Now I've got to pull it up myself to know what you're talking about.
Oh, I'll inform you when I see it. If you guys want to keep doing your thing. Oh gosh, I hope this doesn't blast my recording. There we go, muted. Okay, let's see. I almost got it bang on. Almost. A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more.
Thank God
that's
for
the
editing.
mirror scene. There we go. Okay, right. Okay, so there's Silo. There's the drop. So yeah, you can see them all following here. The for Celestia's sake. Yeah. She does her whole, turn to laughter on the way down. Those Fluttershy's looking at her like, "Oh my god, are you serious?" At this moment. Where is it? Oh yeah, that's what it was. In the background, there's some of the Storm King merchandise is falling with them through the sky. Oh, it's fantastic stuff there. Absolutely great scene. Especially as it leads in. It's a subtle thing, but not a subtle thing, a small thing, and it leads into one of the more sort of show style scenes of them bantering when they're going up the mountain. That's something there's not enough of in the movies. The main six bantering with one another. And just that little scene of going up and the whole, "Are we there yet?" Almost. "Oh, but you said that before." "Oh, but this time it's right. Could we not have landed the balloon at the top of the mountain?" Stuff like that. Those are the scenes I really enjoy, when you get to see the main six being the main six and going back and forth with their personalities. I really wish there was more of that. So to see some of that in that scene is quite fun.
Yeah. Generally, I just love some of the more cinematic shots, especially the opening tracking shot, where it opens with this sunrise over this bed of clouds, and then the Pegasi fly in and they fly around, and then it transitions into this amazing shot of Canterlot as it just tracks all the way in to this
incredibly
table.
Generic, but incredibly fun.
Oh yeah,
I will say.
Dialogue and song in that scene are
Oh my god. I know, Philly. We almost didn't book a stable. Oh my god.
Gosh.
I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah.
With that being one of the opening lines of the movie, I was like, is the rest of the movie going to be like this? And thankfully it wasn't. Thankfully it was just the opening scene, which was a bit rocky in terms of stilted dialogue, as Horse would say.
Yeah. Oh, it was. I think, strangely enough, with that opening bit, it tied back to a part of what I really enjoyed about. Well, sorry, not that I really enjoyed, but that rather caught my eye when I first ever saw the first episode. I think I've said it in this podcast before that when the first episode starts, and it's just normal stuff, and Twilight's friends are trying to get her to come along, whatever. But when she runs away, the music cuts. There's this little guitar riff that jumps in the very first episode, and for some reason that guitar riff always when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, this is a wee bit different from what I was expecting. This is some pretty decent backing music with some energy to it. There's a buoyancy to this." And then the movie opened much in the same way, in that it had that build into it, and then it it let another guitar riff kick in, and it felt almost appropriate. It's almost 99.99999%. I said 9 before the point 3 times there, but that's almost unintentional. It's going to be unintentional, but that was a neat little thing I saw, and I was like, oh, that reminds me of that feeling back then. That's cool. And then they started talking about stables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Horse? I'm sorry, Fuzzy. I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
It's good. It's fine. The single tier.
Oh yeah, I sometimes like cringe to imagine how some people might have been with that. I've been in some place where people will actually go da 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 da, with things like that. I have witnessed seeing 200 Sonic fans dancing and singing to Green Hill Zone. So, I always think about that sort of thing. For those of you who are wondering, yes, Green Hill Zone has no lyrics. They quite literally were just going da 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 da.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was thankful for. Yeah. I was expecting like a rendition of the My Little Pony theme, but I'm glad like it was just like the main notes of the theme. Yeah. Just like to signify, yes, this is a My Little Pony movie, and like it's all epic and grandirized for the scope of the movie. So I'm glad it was kept that simple and no like full on song.
Yeah, definitely. Looking to see what else I had. Oh yeah, in that intro scene, I don't know if anyone noticed Angel in that scene.
I did. Oh my god. Yeah. Angel on the rack with the birds, and then they all fly off, and Bunny's still there just looking pissed off. Oh my god, I saw that the first time I saw the movie, and I just about died.
That's just perfect, Angel. I mean, I am happy to see any time where he gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah. Fucking asshole.
Yeah. I think I there's probably some other things I could remember if I put forward, but that's definitely the things that stood out to me. That balloon scene especially was the main one there. A lot of the things we'd already discussed before that, through Tempest, through Open Your Eyes, through the Vista shots. I mean, that one at the end with the tornado and Canterlot, especially, fantastic there. Those are ones I really enjoyed for it, and even in the characters I didn't like. Basically all the new ones. Their voice acting was still all really good and enjoyable to listen to. Like Seahorse thing. She was quite energetic and fun to listen to. I don't think the shells were necessary. I think that was too much on the character.
Yeah, that was a bit like, I get it's supposed to reinforce that they've been in isolation for so long that they've gone a bit crazy, but that was pushing it a bit.
Yeah, but especially Serrano, Cesaro,
Captain
Kilano. Right. Okay. Yeah. Another reference only some people get, or Maxwell. I mean, I almost if I had to drop one of those characters, I would put it as be Slapper. Capper.
Honestly,
I legitimately don't remember his name. I have to just make up jokes until one of you fills me in. But
you're acting like Atom Smasher from Duck and Cover right now.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, that's a joke I keep doing with that. I entirely stole that joke from Asking Sombra.
So I mean, if I had to drop anyone, I'd say drop him. And give someone fill me in pirate name.
Kalano.
And give Kalano. You're not helping one of you, and I don't know which one of you it is. That's the worst here. I don't know who to trust anymore and say it. And I can't even say Pirate Griffin, because apparently she's not a griffin.
No, she's a parrot.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, they're not griffins, they're birds. They are full-on birds, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping they were griffins, but they're not griffins.
So what you're saying is that the griffin minority has been ignored once again?
Yes, they have. God damn it.
Okay.
Wow.
I missed that detail, but I guess I just didn't think about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I would have dropped Cat Guy and brought Pirate Parrot in a bit more and given her more. I think she was better acted, she had a cooler design. that meshed a lot more with the world, and I think there was a lot more. There was a lot more interest that I think she could have had as a story, and her gradually building to throwing off the shackles, and it treats it as this big triumphant moment when she decides to go back to being a pirate, and they unfurl the ship, and it's all rainbow colored and everything. But that happens after 4 minutes after meeting her. So I think if the cat had been shuffled off a little, and if they'd actually maybe met the captain in the city and had that sort of Han Solo type idea.
I like that.
And had more time with her there, building into the airship, building towards her decision. Could have had a lot of stuff there. I'm stunned that they never went with actually having them fly back into Canterlot on her airship. That would have been a really cool sequence to be the big returning heroes who've gone out, found some help, and come back to save the day. So I really would have wished I would have seen more of her. I think out of all the new characters, she's the one that really stood out to me as being really good, and yet was in it the least. Just my luck.
Yeah, Captain Calano had a lot of unused potential, and I think I remember reading somewhere that apparently, okay, this is really obscure, but I think the information was digged up from the Gameloft pony game. That the way they got back to Equestria from the Badlands was they went back to Klugatown, they bargained with Verco, and they were able to get another ship to go back to Equestria. And I think that's how they did it.
All right. So why not use the ship?
Because it would cut for time.
Oh,
obviously.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe they didn't think about it and they realized, shit, there's a plot hole here. We'll just stuff it in the Gameloft game. Don't worry.
That's a heck of a way to solve the problem.
Yeah. You gotta go through all this other bullshit media to get everything.
Is this what is this why we're seeing so many universes in film right now? It's not because they want to create cohesive crossover awesome. It's because they want to be able to solve their problem. It's like with Thor Ragnarok when they closed one of the plot holes, how the Thanos' glove was in Asgard in the first Thor movie, and yet he's got it on him in all the other scenes. People were like, hang on, why is there a second one? So they had the villain go past it in Ragnarok, pick up and go fake, and just toss it over her back.
I do recall.
That's great. Maybe that's what all the collective universes is for. It's like the film version. It's like the film version of patching games.
Yep,
that's what it is now.
It's retconning.
Yeah, I'm joking, of course. I love collective universes. Yeah. It's I'm just poking fun at it there.
I do recall that the only reason why Doctor Strange as a character was created was to offset all the other bullshit OP villains that the heroes had to deal with.
Makes sense.
That's the only reason why Doctor Strange was made and introduced.
It let Benedict Cumberbatch get a role. I'm
also
that they could have brought him in just to have the color red more in the movie for all I care. It was entire. It allowed him to be in there. Now we just need to get that scene alongside Tom Hiddleston, and then it can be awesome.
But anyways, we're getting horribly off topic here.
But important.
Yeah.
So I wonder, before, so I'm not throwing it up right at the end of the podcast and ending it. I'd almost like to throw these plot holes I spotted at you and see if you guys can, maybe say if there's something I missed that maybe explains it, or explain it yourself, and see how they actually really come through. I have this list here. We already covered the teleporting one,
right,
which would have solved so many problems for it.
But
this is, and I'll start with a small one. When they return to Canterlot and they're dragging the cake, they say that they want to go to the throne room. How do they know they're in the throne room?
Why wouldn't they be in the throne room? It's the most obvious place to be in.
Then why wouldn't they not go? Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just we don't have time for an investigation.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought the second time this is a low ball to start off with for it.
But, oh boy, here we go.
But okay, so I'll throw a slightly more difficult one out. Why on earth did Canterlot fall at the start of the movie? Like, why?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the movie, it's established that these guards are complete incompetent morons
Yeah,
who could not defeat anything.
Where
yet at the
were the
start of the movie-
guards? Where were
Yeah,
the royal
where-
guards? They were nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, there's no royal guards. You've got. I'll go easy. The princess is being taken out straight away. That was Tempest. She's a badass. She managed that. Cool. I got no problem with that. That was obviously her plan, and she didn't waste time in taking them down before they could do anything. But the rest of it, what happened to all the guards? And there's also the slight matter of one of the most powerful unicorns in Equestria having been spotted in the capital during the intro. Like, you've got Starlight Glimmer right there. She's as powerful as Twilight. It's like I almost wish they would do an episode in season 8 that is just what she was doing during the invasion. I think that would be a fantastic way to close that plot hole and probably and just poke fun at it a little. But I don't understand how the whole thing fell. These guards were complete idiots.
Yeah, it's amazing how there are no royal guard anywhere to be seen.
Yeah, you've got that. You've got the obviously he's not there, but Discord's out there, and there's for goodness sake, you've got the Crystal Empire. You've got all the other pony places around. You've got Cloudsdale, of which the Wonderbolts are. In fact, the Wonderbolts were there too.
Yeah.
They're perceived as incredibly capable and actually fulfill like a counter monster role in some episodes. So. I just don't understand how they portray it as like, oh, the whole place fell, but then later on, like, oh, they're actually complete idiots who just are beat by comedy. I don't get it. I mean,
It's
a lot
like
of old animated shows have done this in the past, but generally they at least gave some sort of reasoning behind it. In this one, it just ignores the entire setup just to let this happen and then pretends like they're nothing.
This wouldn't have happened if this was written by M.A. Larson.
If it was written by Emmy Larson, we would have spent the last 3 hours talking about memes.
Yeah, also that.
Yeah.
And I would have been extremely disappointed in it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just don't get that whole that bothered me the whole movie after. Well, I say the whole movie. It actually wasn't, because the whole movie I had the impression that these guards were unstoppable monsters, and then at the end, it was the whole movie from the point that happened. So like 10% of the movie. So I'm massively exaggerating, but it I don't know. It just really confused me how that happened and how it ignored it. And this leads into the second one. So the third one, I should say. Why did Celestia tell Luna to try and go to the hippogriffs?
Because the movie had to introduce a new toy line.
Because Twilight needed to know, and
Just
that was...
Why not go to the Crystal Empire, get their standing army?
Because we already have that toy line. We need to establish a new toy line. That's why.
Like, why not tell her to go and find Discord? Why not tell her to go
Discord
and
is
round
up, listener.
like all these other things? Like, all she needs to do is just go up to Discord and say, yeah, one of those things slap Fluttershy. Like, he will turn that place upside down in a moment from that.
Yeah.
Why not go to the Changelings there? Like, they've established they've got like a very good guy defending them. Why not go to the Griffins? Why not go to the Yaks? That would have been the greatest ending ever. All these Yaks now again, movie not perfect, and just rather like that would have been great. Like, there's all this stuff, all these things that would have made more logical choices than, hey, go after this civilization that clearly I've not heard from in centuries, that has completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Go find them.
This is where I have to bring it back to musical logic, in that, like, just for this. That's my best defense. It's like, it doesn't make perfect sense. It's just there for the purposes of the emotional.
But like,
journey.
isn't that countered by saying this isn't a musical?
What with all the songs? If this
No,
isn't a
that's-
musical,
that-
they burst
how-
into
The number of
song.
songs can be counted on one hand.
It's like what defines a musical by songs is that the songs are an intrinsic part of the experience and that they move it forward. There's like, this is just, it just has songs.
Well,
it's like, I wouldn't call
I mean,
things I wouldn't call the Disney movies musicals at all. Like the vast majority of it is told not through song.
Yeah, but they do have a kind of. There's a.
I get I think what you're meaning. Like even if it's not,
it's not even if it's not completely. It follows logic fully that it's not trying.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like even if it's not actually a musical, like MLP has always followed the same sort of tenets as them, which is probably why they adapt so well when they actually do musical episodes. I guess, the Cutie Mark Traders one, for example. I sort of, but at the same time, it just in a show that has made such a point of creating this incredible world around it, just ignoring all of that is impossible to not think about when you first see it. In there, and let's see, where was the? I'm pretty certain there was at least one other there. No, the other one I had written was the "because that's what friends do" line, which we already covered. So
yeah.
I don't need to draw that up. I have
what I found really funny about that scene was the fact that there's just this really awkward like perspective shot of Tempest. Her face is huge and her legs are tiny.
Yeah, yeah, that was a weird perspective shot.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I remember about that whole sequence is just Twilight doing her whole "Heroes Never Die" sequence.
Yeah. Oh god, that was a beautiful shot. That was a
although
wonderful
I question how much tension there really was in that scene of, oh my gosh, is she dead? She's an alicorn who can fly and teleport, and she's in the sky.
And she's also the main character of the series. Well, she was the main character of the series, and then Starlight Glimmer came in. Anyways, point is, Twilight's not going to die.
She also didn't have her magic back at that.
I mean, I can understand the whole, oh, we know she's not going to die, but I can still understand that threat being there. That's a standard move. It's just the whole having her go into the sky when she can fly isn't the greatest pull of tension I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, maybe if they'd had rubble fall on her or something, and then it's revealed she's been shielding herself under it or something like that. I don't know.
Well, she wouldn't have been able to shield herself unless she used the staff of Sicanus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Use the staff for something like that. That would be cool. Yeah. That would work too. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of moving. I mean, I don't have any others there. I'm going to pull it in after that. It's just joke stuff. But I mean, going through onto that ending, aside from the Zootopia problem in there, it does at least create probably the cutest scene in the whole movie right at the end. You know the one I'm talking about, Basic. You can go.
The best ship.
The one that set that ship sailing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about the airships.
I don't know what it is, but this is one good thing about Megan McCarthy, is that she wrote Equestria Girls 2, I'm pretty sure, which also had a ton of shipping fuel between Twilight and Sunset Shimmer.
Yep.
And I don't know what it is, but Twilight just has this knack of these unicorn mares that she goes toe to toe with, and then later befriends, just also leads into some of the most blatant shipping I've ever seen. And don't tell me if you've seen the movie and and you see the interaction between Twilight and Tempest at the end. Don't tell me that those are not lovers' eyes, because they totally fucking are.
You mean that long 30-second silent sequence of them just staring at each other
Yes!
through the corner of their eyes nervously?
Yeah. And God, it's just fuck already. Goddamn.
I'm sure the fandom will have made sure that happened very quickly.
It's happened plenty of times. I've seen it.
You would. Yeah, it was quite an adorable. I thought revealing her name was the best way that could have possibly ended that. Just bring her back to being within the fold. I need to stop calling her Tempest. I need to constantly call her you will know this probably, Basic. What's her actual name?
Fizzlepop Berry Twist.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain that I should just start calling her that from now on. And
honestly, she went the whole movie known as Tempest, and I think Tempest fits her. I don't know.
Fizzlepop, Fizzlepop had even in her history, that's who she was at first. So I think Fizzlepop should be known by her name, Fizzlepop.
I prefer Tempest. It's a much cooler name.
So moving on from the Twi-Pop ship.
Right.
So actually, what am I going to move on to? I just wanted to say that to say the ship
I
name.
have, I
on you
suppose
go.
I haven't said anything for a bit.
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
I
I've been
have
wanting
a
to try to
couple
push
of,
you to say something.
I have a couple of miscellaneous notes.
Yeah, sure.
And
Okay.
then I want to talk about tone, because this movie has tone problems.
Yes, yes, it does.
So first, the miscellaneous notes. Something about like there's lines that get repeated, and some of them are.
You've got this. I've got this. We got this. Those
I mean,
lines.
that's the good repetition where like that's the basically the through line of the film because it's a motif that shows up in the soundtrack as well. But then there's Pinky's I'm so excited, I've never been so excited, blah blah blah. That keeps coming, that is repeated at least twice, and it's like it's really obvious and jarring.
Sorry.
And like yeah, she says it when she's in the canon, and it's like the least like it really takes you out of it. It's like yeah, it was in the trailer, and then it keeps coming back, and that kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get that's a part of Pinky's character where, like, even though they're in these dangerous situations throughout the entire movie, she's always smiling and having fun with it.
But like there are different ways to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
You can like you know a really Pinky thing that I just really loved is in the credits animation where they actually do find a queen of the hippos.
Yeah.
She's just there in the line dance at the end. That's just great.
Oh yeah.
And another thing about the credits, if I could just say real quick, Discord, like, the actual Discord does show up in, like, the pointy pony form in the credits in the background.
It's
Dancing
like,
with
Hi
Celestia.
guys, what I miss.
Yeah.
The other note was they had the product placement for Hungry Hippo.
Oh, it's like what we got and find what hungry? Maybe they're hungry. Hungry hippos? Pause for effect.
As like Rarity and Fluttershy share, like, what?
Yeah. Oh, they do the look for it. It's like
Yeah.
I think what almost makes us now is not more than a couple of minutes prior you'd had the Transformer sound effect as well with
Yep.
the speaker system.
Yeah.
There.
That one I
that
liked more than the Hungry Hippos part.
Yeah.
I,
It was just.
I missed that.
Oh yeah, it's like when
Grubber.
When Grubber comes out, and he throws down this box, and it builds up into the speaker for him to announce that Fizzlepop's arrived.
Oh my god!
He basically
It's
just
Tempest.
it's like the box makes the Transformer. It sounds that comes out.
All right. Well, I suppose that didn't occur to me.
Yeah, I liked. That's a neat little bit there. The Hungry Hippos one was a bit on the nose.
Anyway, speaking of Grubber.
Oh,
I fucking hate Grubber. I hate Grubber.
We have avoided mentioning this guy for a long time, and I think we're all going to have a very quick agreement here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Grubber is he's just constantly undercutting, everything about. I'm just gonna be a despicable neutral here, and I'm gonna call her Tempest when she's being a villain, and I'm gonna call her Fizzlepop when she's not. Okay.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Okay. Go on.
Grubber is just constantly undercutting any kind of atmosphere and tension around Tempest. It's a thing that's happened in a lot of animation in the last few years since there's always been sidekicks, but it's gotten really bad since the fucking Minions came out, and it's just impossible for anyone to have any scenes that have like actual dramatic tension anymore without having some annoying sidekick come along and just kind of completely knock it all over like they're fucking terrible at Jenga.
I think the clear point you can make is what portion of the movie does Grubber perform a critical role to the story?
None whatsoever.
He like announcing Tempest, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See.
Like
Okay.
I think once. I mean, there's probably his most forgivable parts. He has like one or two. It's like when they fall off the bridge and he's just like, "Oh, do you want to go down there?" I'm not going down there. And then they just kind of wander off.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like fucking pain and panic in Hercules, where they're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we lost the baby. It's probably fine." That's kind
Yeah.
of funny. Or when he like takes a bit of the cake and that like blows their cover. That's acceptable. That's not outstanding use of the character, but it's all right. Everything else is just god awful.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's basically Jar Jar Binks.
Horse, let me paint it this way for you. If Twilight has Spike, Tempest has Grubber, and they're both
but-
equally fucking useless.
Yeah, but we care about Spike.
Yeah, Spike actually does have. I mean,
Like,
he didn't really show it in this, but I think he's at least an established one that we know like that. We know he can perform
Spike,
roles.
Like you can debate the quality of the episodes, but Spike has episodes where we are made to care about him.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love Spike as a character, and I hate how he is so underutilized, and just the writers do nothing with him. He could have easily been used in this movie. Like, the scene after Twilight is captured, Spike could have like gone back to the main five and like sort of argued and defended Twilight's honor, saying like, I know you guys are really mad at Twilight, but like, think of all the good things she's done throughout the years. Spike easily could have been used as that as a character, but he wasn't, and that upsets me.
Yeah, that's
I feel
really
like
true.
that's something that might have, if they'd been able to do a couple more passes at the script before going into production, they might have been able to like that.
But some writers don't care about Spike, so.
Yeah, well, but Spike is also like not clashing with Twilight in terms of tone, where like they complement each other. They feel like they belong together.
Yeah.
Whereas Grubber is just annoying and in the way, and like Tempest is going around basically being a villain from a Don Bluth movie.
Yeah.
And Grubber he's just wandered off the set of fucking Despicable Me.
Yeah.
It's quite annoying, but it's like he's the most egregious example. But there are just kind of bits of like where they haven't fully ironed out the wild swings, because I have mentioned about how there are elements of the aesthetic that I just really like, and I keep mentioning Don Bluth, closest point of comparison I have of just the kind of dark cartoon is possibly the best way I can put it, and it's like it's serious, but not like grimly serious. There are moments for opportunities for levity, but then there's like other elements of the movie that just go way off in the other direction, and they're just so silly as to completely bring you out of it. Like, I was kind of on the fence about the Storm King. Like, the Storm King is great, he's hilarious, but we also see barely any of him, and we don't get enough of him being kind of menacing. He just kind of, because like pretty much every appearance the Storm King has before he shows up at Canterlot in person is just him being a hilarious goof. Like the scene where he's like not quite in shot in the video call.
Oh yeah.
That's really funny, and it's kind of amusing seeing Tempest kind of not having the patience for this shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just I think she's at her best when she's doing that deadpan, oh for crying out loud type thing.
No,
very clearly.
Look to your right. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, but that kind of comes back to the tone problems that I'm trying to describe here, where it's like it feels like they couldn't quite commit to making a serious and dramatic cartoon, or a straight comedic cartoon. I mean, I have to bring up comparisons with some Disney movies that have had tone problems, like Hercules, Hunchback of Notre Dame, where parts of particularly the Hunchback of Notre Dame, where the main plot is just incredibly serious. I mean, Frollo is just possibly one of the darkest villains they've ever done.
Yeah.
But this is also a movie where you have the fucking gargoyles.
Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, you don't escape. And there's a little bit of that here, where Tempest and some of the environments are, they if everything else in the movie was done in their kind of tone, it could have been how would I describe it? It could have been a brave aesthetic decision, but I think it could have worked really well. But they kind of did a half measure on it and fell back to, wacky antics every now and then, and that kind of but like not enough to, really sell this is a light and wacky movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so I absolutely, yeah, I can totally agree from where it's coming from there. That almost, if they just made it like the Storm King turns up like right away, or turns up in the middle of the movie and then hangs around with with her there, it'd give a bit more time with him maybe then.
I mean, this isn't to say that I brought up Hercules. I mean, Hades deserves a better movie, and maybe the Storm King does as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, other than the fact, I would say, bring him back. Other than the fact he was straight up murdered.
He's fucking dead.
Yeah, like there's no ifs and buts about that one. He's just dead.
Yeah, that was a very Disney death.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, yeah. I can't. I mean, I think that's covered about all the characters there overall. I can't think of many others for it in there. Done animation, done music. Yeah, I think I've gone through all my notes here. I think.
Horse, anything else?
I think I've covered all of my points. I never got around to talking about how the low point of the movie, where they have the fight and they actually this I suppose I've kind of like it's come up the points I mentioned about how I just thought that was a really well executed, like not I know people weren't jazzed about the betrayal itself, but like consequences of it, I feel like that I thought that emotionally landed for me.
Yeah, it was appropriate that that Twilight using her friends for her own gain, and their reaction to that, I thought that was appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've covered it in like going about how talking about the emotional arc, so that's basically covered. Yeah, I think I've covered everything that yeah.
All right, so before we end this off, there's just one last thing I want to go over with you guys. So now that the movie has sort of set this sort of groundwork of expectations, what is your wish list or your expectations going into a sequel for the next movie?
None.
No expectations?
No expectations. Absolutely.
Huh. I guess I'll try and push something. Like, I think I would just like to see it set more in Equestria, to see Equestria in movie form. I'd like to see more of a connectivity with the show. If the season leads up to the movie, it would be horrific to plan, but it would be brilliant.
I doubt that's going to happen.
And
just with the lead time on production for a movie.
Yeah.
Like as I said, it would be nightmarish to plan. But hey, Marvel does it with TV shows, so
yeah. Well, those are also movies that have they're fucking on sweatshop production schedules.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this was literally made in China. So yeah, I mean, aside from seeing more of Equestria, I'd like to see, even if not in time with that exact season, but connectivity with the actual series itself is something I'd definitely be after, and just more of a focus on time with the main six throughout it, than a mass distraction. And then if they do the sequel, it's unlikely because of the actress, but if they don't bring back Fizzlepop, then I'll be fairly disappointed there because it's her.
Yeah,
Gotta
personally,
see more of that.
as much as I would love to see Tempest again, as biased as that opinion is, I'm not really expecting Tempest to make a return in any follow-up movies, purely because, like, I'm sure they want each movie to be standalone, to be a more consumable for the average audience. But other than that, I really have no expectations. What was that, Horse?
Kind of the same reason that she doesn't like act.
You think you
Like,
broke up slightly?
She's like only in her movie.
I don't think I'm afraid I didn't quite get that. I think you sort of broke up.
Yeah, you broke up.
Oh, it's like that Sunset Shimmer is only in the Equestria Girls movies.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah.
they started that crossover. They've started it. It's sort of been done.
Sort of, yeah. A little bit. I'm hoping they do more with it.
Yep.
I can only hope. But yeah, I really have no expectations, but my wish list, what I would love to see, is something a bit more scaled down, less adventure, more like not like a big grand epic adventure, but more like a self-contained adventure, where like maybe the whole movie takes place between Canterlot, Ponyville, and Cloudsdale. Like there's something going on, and they travel between these locations, and it focuses more on character interaction.
I think I get where you're coming from there, but I don't agree because I mean, obviously that's your personal opinion, so
Yeah.
that's not something I can say is objectively right or wrong. I think the reason I don't agree with that approach is that my opinion with this one, like I said at the beginning, was that I felt like it was building up to the big movie, and then we never got the big movie. So I think if I was to see a sequel, I would want it to be just as big a scale, if not bigger, to actually get that feeling out of it. Because I would feel that if we got a better movie, but it dropped down to a really small scale, I'd feel like it's gained something but lost something. I'd like to see one on this sort of willingness of scale, but using more of an actual friendship is magic approach to it rather than the distractions in this one. I just want to see one that's at this scale but done right. Basically,
Basically, like with no important plot elements dropped and cut out.
yeah.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
But anyways, I believe that does bring us to an end of this special edition of Faux Talk. Fuzzy and Horse, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I think the only last thing I would say is that I mean, it's like that. I mean, we start off seeing our overall thoughts on it, but like Horse, I mean, what would you say? Like, especially having talked it through now, I'm I'm much more a ratings person normally, but I mean, how do you hold the movie from where it is? Also, I think you're muted. Or we've just lost him. Okay.
Yeah, Horse is muted.
One of the two.
Okay.
So I suppose So I mean, we can say. So I mean, how did you come out? I mean, now that you've come out of it, it's been talked over. How do you sort of feel about the movie as it as it is now, and how it's rated within it's part of the show now essentially. How do you feel about it as part of that?
If I absolutely had to rate it like how I would rate an episode, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's not the best thing. It's not perfect, but it's still really enjoyable for me to watch. As I've said, there's entertaining value to it, and like I've watched it somewhere around like 10 times. So I
Jeez.
still get enjoyment out of it.
Yeah. Horse?
What was the question again?
Yeah, just how like finalizing thoughts on it.
That's kind of
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
wavering and yeah, it's like, yeah, it was all right. It was okay. There was a lot of potential there. Not a lot of the potential was fulfilled by the time the credits roll, but it was still all right.
Yeah. I think I'd just say it's I think it's going to go down as more of a hey, it happened, right?
Yeah.
Right, and I think over time, people will perhaps, as soon as the feeling of oh, that wasn't what I was hoping for passes over time, I think people will maybe look at it in a slightly better light at that point once they know what they're expecting from it and knowing what the good things you're going back to are, for the different characters, different specific scenes, that sort of thing. Overall, I would rate it 2 out of 3 Starlight Glimmer, only in 2 acts.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us on this special edition of FoE Talk. Even though we didn't talk about FoE, I'm sure hearing the usual cast ramble about their thoughts and opinions of things was something to take away. So, again, you all have a good night. I'm almost out of military tech school, so hopefully I will have more time and better opportunities to do more FoE Talk, and I can come back into the fold, and we will pick up on Roundtable Review Volume 3 of Fallout Equestria. I'll see you guys then.
Oh boy.
Oh,
see you later.
Boy. All right.
Okay, cool. Anyway, that actually wasn't as bad on my tongue as I thought it would be. Although the fact that I spent most of that on 500 milligrams of ibuprofen probably helped.
I'm just glad you're able to. Honestly, as it went on, I couldn't tell that your tongue was impaired at all.
I was starting to feel it a little bit in my throat because I was talking with my